Okay. Hi everyone, it's Adriana BITO, founder of honestym.com, and today I'm interviewing the amazing Julia Cha. So we're trying to get online together right now. Ah, so Julia is going to join us and tell us about her amazing journey. She's a power parent coach. She lives in Canada, but she's a Korean descent who was born in Argentina. So a lot of multiculturalism. I can't wait to share Julia's story with you. So I'm adding her now, inviting her video. So Julia is arriving. Hello.
Hello. Nice to see
Hi,
you.
Julia. We did it.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation for this interview. So I was introducing you as an amazing Korean, Argentinian, Canadian power parent coach, so many things, mom. But obviously, you'll tell us more about yourself. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Thank you. I'm very fresh right now because it's 6 a.m. here.
Yes, it's so early. Thank you so much for being with us at this time.
My pleasure.
So please, Julia, let us know who are you?
Oh, I am a business coach, like Adriana mentioned, and I help parents find their dream career and live out their dreams instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. A lot of people think that they have to wait until retirement because they can't make a big leap or make a jump, or a lot of people don't even know what they want to do and what their ideal dream situation is. So basically what I help them is to help them create the perfect career for their life.
Perfect career for the life of parents. And why did you choose to work with parents, especially?
Well, partly because I am a parent myself, but I found something remarkable in my journey of being a parent. I found out that once you have your child, something changes in you, and the things that used to excite you doesn't excite you anymore. Your priority shifts, your values shift, but it's not a shift that takes you away from who you are. Like a lot of people feel like you lose your identity. It actually brings you back to brings you back home, the spiritual home of being really who you're meant to be in this life. And when you accept the journey of being a parent, when you fully accept it, then that's the time you're fully accepting your child. And a lot of parents feel like they can't do things because of their child, and that they have to be stuck where they are, even if they may not be happy with their health, with their career. There's a lot of career issues because of work-life balance. And just the fact that you start to see things very differently. It's like the glasses have been lifted off your eyes and you can see things differently. And a lot of parents don't realize that this is like a spiritual change within them. They don't understand that this trigger is not because of the child, it's because you are changing. And it's a very scary feeling when you don't know what's happening. So that's what I work with parents. A lot of times they don't do anything for like 6, 7, 10 years, sometimes until their kids become like 15, 16 years old. And then something will trigger them to make a change. So they will start on something. And a lot of times they're exploring entrepreneurship, because having a job or a career that was very demanding has been stressing them out. It hasn't been working for them, and they just feel like their soul has been sucked out. And that's because they're closer to truth now. So my business coaching has a lot of the personal growth and spirituality element, because it's absolutely necessary to grow in your business.
I think that's really beautiful how you define being a parent as being a spiritual journey within yourself.
Yes.
Um, I've never thought of this like that. So would you say that it was your dream to become a parent and then help other parents? Like, what is your dream and how did you get where you are right now?
Well, your dream is always kind of is higher than what you want, right? Because a lot of people think that my dream is to have a huge house and like 3 Lamborghinis or something. A lot of people might think that's their dream, but that's just the hurt ego talking. That's an emotional wound that's playing out, is manifesting, and it appears like it's your dream. What your actual dream is where you want to get to in this lifetime for a greater purpose. So like you're helping other people who feel discriminated in their careers come forward and feel okay with themselves so they can push forward and succeed in their life. And for a lot of parents are broken, and a lot of them were lost adults before they became parents, and now the pressure of having to provide and be responsible is basically destroying them inside, and they feel like they can't take action because they have to continue to provide and do the same thing they were doing before, because when they're like risk averse, right? Because the children need to be fed. It's like the worst nightmare of any parent is to have your kids starving or something, or being on the street
Yeah.
and becoming failures. And that's kind of a universal fear of all parents. So they feel like they need to make sure that they're not going to become failures. But also, that kind of mindset doesn't prevent the children to thrive, right? So in my journeys, that I was continuously looking for a career that will allow me to parent properly, and the only thing that allowed me to do that was entrepreneurship. And it doesn't have to be a coach or a consultant. It can be many other different things. It's just that nowadays it's so much easier to run an online business than be
Yes.
at a job.
So how did you become one? Were you working in an office before? What was your background? How did you get into power parent coaching as you're doing right now?
Well, I got into business coaching over 6 years period of time. I was like that parent who was looking for work-life balance. I had great career ambitions. I had my children fairly early. I was 25 when I had my first one. So I was a kid myself, and I was still growing. And literally like the like right before I had my first child, I was like partying until like 3 a.m. Like my life was not, it wasn't fit to be a parent. My lifestyle was like, I was drinking like 3 to 4 times a night. I was always at a party. I was busy. I was going out all the time. And when people meet me now, like even my brother would tell me that I just seem like a totally different person. And because that was what I was doing back then, is because I was escaping from a lot of negative emotions, right? And that's how people keep themselves going in a life they don't like. I didn't like my career at the time. I was striving to become an artist, and I was doing art on the side. But it's the fear of doing what you really want. A lot of people can't do what they really want because it's excruciatingly painful. You have to heal a lot to be able to do what you want. And I was working an office job in the arts industry at the time. And I had my child, and then a few years later, I had a divorce, and now I had to provide. So it put me under a lot of pressure to provide for my 2 little ones. My daughter was only 9 months old at the time. And so I decided, I really wanted to learn business, but I was thinking very in an institutional mindset that I had to go back to school to become a business person. And then I thought, okay, well, that doesn't really fit me to go back and do an MBA because I already have a bachelor's. The correct step in institutional mindset would be to get an MBA. I decided, okay, well, I just want to go in the industry and learn to sell, because that's the basic bloodline of a business, is to make sales and marketing. So I went through various sales jobs. I did really well. And I was doing sales. And then eventually I thought, I'm working so hard. I'm working long hours, because if you're selling, you have to be selling when your kids are home, because that's when the high traffic time is. That's when people are buying. And my schedule was completely backwards. When I was doing well financially, I never saw my kids. And I thought, this is wrong, because why am I here? Because my only purpose in life is not to provide for the family. I need to be with my children. And I went through a time period where I abandoned everything for my career, and I got really depressed. My body, I was suffering in health. I gained about 20 pounds in 2 years or something, because I was drinking every night in order to keep this up. I was drinking, and the next morning I would like have coffee so I can function and get the kids to school. And then I would go into work later that day, and I'll be at work, you know, way past dinner time, sometimes until like 10 p.m. And I will come home and I'd be like, I need to wind down. So I'll have a drink, and then one drink becomes two. And then eventually that spiraled into a really bad depression. And this happened in a cycle of 2 times, actually. And the second time I was on antidepressant, I thought, okay, there is something really wrong if I can't be in my life without doing this. So I decided to kick this pill off, like just, I threw them away. I flushed them down the toilet, and my doctor just went nuts. She's like, why are you doing that? You know, once you're on those antidepressants, you need to wean yourself out. But I said, you know what? I am better than this. I am stronger than this. I'm going to find a way. And then I start to get really focusing on having my own business. And of course, there were twists and turns. I made some not so great choices at the time, and went into another career that was a business career, but it was still working under an umbrella of a company. And then what I realized is I want to have total control. I did not want someone telling me to, you know, because if you're selling someone's product, they want you to use their script or have certain procedures. And I didn't want that. I said, you know, I want to do it the way I see that the market is responding. Because a lot of times when you follow institutionalized procedures, these are very antiquated ways of making sales, growing a business. I wanted something fresh, current, what's happening right now, what's working right now. And more than that, I wanted to help a lot of people solving a big problem in people's lives, not just like selling them a product. I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want to just sell people stuff. I wanted to change their lives. I wanted to change them. And part of sales process is that you are helping them make a transformation, right? Because you're giving them a solution when you're making a sale. But I wanted something greater than that. I want to help them solve the core of the problem. Then I saw that the majority of the parents who are working, they're not doing what they want. And then they're doing the same cycle I am in. They might not be clinically depressed, but their energy is low.
Yes.
They're having a really bad time. They're always stressed out. I mean, I'm sure like all of us grew up with parents like that. So what I get down to is that the way we were raised, like you as a child, when you were a child, and your parents, the way we were raised is to inherit the stress and the negative emotional patterns of our parents.
Yes.
And their lack of belief and limiting beliefs. And then we can't do any better for ourselves until we make that change. Basically, we have to crack the skull and do something different.
Wow. That's quite a journey. Like you overcame so much, like depression, going back to business work, dealing with your kid. I guess you were a single mom then for a while.
I'm still a single mom, but you know, it's like a different, because when I first became a single mom, I mean, I'm a minority woman. I didn't tell anyone in my family because I will be judged so badly. Like if you leave your husband, that's like worse than death, right? I didn't tell my family. Like very few people knew about it. The people only who were involved in my life knew about it. And even then I got a lot of flack. It's like, you know, because from people always see from the outside, you know, this guy looks so good. What's the problem? He makes a good living, you know, he's around. And then the funniest thing is I realized that people's standards were so low that they thought that I had the perfect life because I didn't have a baby daddy who ran away. I'm just like, what? That's your standard for me? That's not my standard.
So as long as the baby daddy didn't run away and you're the one who made the decision, still you're good.
Yeah. So what's the problem, right? So like you don't see anything in people's marriages, and people will be like, you know, judging, right? And then I had friends come over and they would say things like, well, this place is too nice for a single mom. How can you afford it? Yeah. So I got a lot of flack and judgment. And I thought, okay, I can either crumble here or I'm going to figure out my way. And I had like no role models of any single moms running a business. The only single moms I knew were the ones who were so disempowered. And it took me a long time to, like, I had the thought that I'm not going to be this anymore. But I went through a pretty long period of time where I had no self-belief. And that is actually the main problem for most people, is that they lack self-belief, especially if you're a minority, if you're a woman, if you somehow feel segregated from society, you have no self-belief.
Yes.
And you can't see a better image of yourself. So that's why you're always struggling. But until you teach yourself to rise up and to use these negative features as an advantage.
Yes.
Because come on, let's face it, like, if you see somebody who struggled a lot and they're finally successful, you suddenly have more admiration for that person than someone who's always had it good, right? Like, that's just our nature. But then when you're in the process, you don't feel like you're good stuff. You feel like you're shit, basically.
Yes.
But that's an illusion.
During the construction. So how did you do it for yourself, and how do you do it for the people that you help? How do you transform this? What is your method? What is the language? I like to ask, what is your language to actually transform all these difficulties into success, happiness, and freedom? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, they have to get to know who they are and what they want in life, and to be honest with themselves. And I think the topic that we are talking about also is honesty.
Yes.
And how I would define honesty is authenticity and being who you really want to be, right? Because a lot of people will play small, or they will think that, you know, if it's something reachable, then you're not reaching enough. Like,
it needs to be bigger,
especially women.
Bigger than, yes,
it has to be bigger. Especially women, especially if you are women of color, minority women, you are told to aim small. Because yes. Like, what were my career options when I was a child? Like, because every person is born with full potential, and they have the potential to dream. What happens is all these limited adults who haven't done work on themselves, they will shut you down from very early age. So when I was a little girl, I didn't know any better, so I wanted to be a model, right? And I'm not tall enough to be a model, to be honest. I'm only 5'5". I want to be a model, but what were the things I heard from adults immediately? Just take a wild guess. I said, I want to be a model.
I guess not many people were supportive.
No, they would say, you know, oh, you're too fat, first of all. Second of all, they'll say, you know, yeah, yeah. This is a whole new topic of Asian culture, and being fat. Yeah, this is it. Anyway, that's a whole new life topic. First of all, you're too fat. Second of all, you know, that's not a very family-friendly job, because your main job in your life is going to be a mother, and no good mother is a model, right? So what you will do is that you either become a school teacher, definitely pursue high-level education, because that'll help you marry someone better. So you see, it's like all geared towards being a mom.
Yes.
But that's the message I got since I was, you know, ever since I can remember. So imagine me trying to be greater than that and having a lot of conflict, right? So how do you change that? You need to surround yourself with the right people. Like all those people who thought I didn't deserve much, like the ones who told me that, you know, you have a baby daddy who wants you around. Why are you ditching that and the perfect life? Yeah. All those people who said that, I got rid of them in my life. It's like, okay, well, you're not willing to listen to the depth of what a relationship is and the sort of things that can lead to a divorce. So you just get rid of those people. Like you have to always be a gardener in your own garden. So you gotta prune and chop the weeds and pluck them out of the roots and make sure that your garden is healthy and lush and full of the kind of the plants that you want to grow there, right? So that's the first step. People have to get rid of people who instill limiting beliefs, who want you to be the same person that you always were. And if you can't get rid of them because they're your family, like I didn't share that I was divorced. When I was very, very tender and still trying to figure out myself, I didn't share. And also for 17 years, I did not go back to Korea. Wow. Because is divorcing your culture. Because the culture, in my case, was the cage. And is at a very unconscious level. Just cutting people off does not do this job. You have to really delve in and reach in and find someone who can help you. So I did. I found a mentor who could help me. She's been helping me for 6 years in working on myself with all these unconscious limiting beliefs and thoughts that were keeping me stuck and having small results in my life. And she's still a very good friend. Like, I mean, at first it started off as her being the mentor. Now we are sort of more friends because we're both interested in similar stuff. So finding someone who knows how to deal with your unconscious beliefs and help you push forward, that is the first step. No, that would, well, first of all, you have to get rid of all those people.
Yeah, get rid of the people who disempowers you. Second, find a good mentor, right?
Yeah, and then surround yourself with people who think similarly to you, so you don't feel like you're the crazy one.
Yes.
Because growing up, I was literally told I was crazy all the time because I had big dreams and right. And then you just talk to a child. A child doesn't know the limits of an adult, and whatever the adult is enforcing on the child is their own limiting beliefs, right? So I always wonder, like, what would it be like to be like President Obama's child versus like my own parents' child? Because this guy probably doesn't have very many limiting beliefs, right? Now the child is like, until the child does his own work, that's the result of the adults, how much work they've done in themselves, manifesting on the child, right?
Definitely.
So it's very important to surround yourself with people who can be an accountable partner, or who can who will at least be able to bounce off some ideas you can call, right? And I have created an ecosystem of success over time. It's very important.
Ecosystem of success. So get rid of the people who are who actually feed your limiting beliefs. Then find the right mentor. Surround yourself with like-minded people and build yourself an ecosystem of success.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I would say to all people who feel discriminated, like if you are a minority or you are a woman, or there's a lot of gender battles still in corporate. I can attest that myself from experience. Doesn't matter. I live in Canada. It's supposed to be very friendly and equal, but that gender gap in earning and position is still very, very prominent. But you have to realize yourself, when things are not working, it's not because there's something wrong with you necessarily. Like if you're fighting to go up the corporate ladder and you can't get promoted no matter what you do, even if you're working on your performance, everything. I mean, who's the person who makes the decisions, right? You have to think of that too. Because a lot of times when people think like, I didn't get this job, or I didn't land this client, there's something deeply wrong with me. And it's okay to look at your skill set, but to question your worth, that is a dangerous place to go. When you look at your skill set, you can see what you can improve. But if you feel like there's something innately wrong with you, there's no way out. That is the first trapping. So the culture, race, gender, sexual orientation, all these things, they're man-made. They're man-made on how we interpret it, right?
Socialization.
And how the society sees it. And in Buddhism, this is all an illusion. None of it is real, right? The only thing that is real is your true essence of who you are and how much you're going to show up authentically and live your purpose. And when you see people who live their purpose, like yourself, Adriana, it's like, it's a different vibe, and you can feel it. It's like a different energy. There's nothing worse than people who are avoiding living their purpose. They are probably the worst human beings. They're angry, they're upset, they're the ones that cut you off in the highway, you know? Because
So
when you're
really
truly aligned,
yes. So
when you're
really
truly aligned, you need to.
when you really align, that's where you can find your self-worth, and you don't like doubt yourself like the external world is trying to make you doubt yourself. And it's really
Yeah.
about following your true purpose. And so in Buddhism,
Yes.
how does Buddhism help us from, so knowing what you know and what we know, that we have all those limiting beliefs that comes from our parents, TV, school, everything really.
Yeah.
Like, how do we transcend ourselves? How do we free ourselves from those social identities that limit us? What is the key? What is the key
So what I
daily
want to
practice to have?
Okay, so what I want to emphasize is that it is not necessary for you to become Buddhist, okay? And in fact, I wouldn't even identify myself as a Buddhist. You know, my mom was a Buddhist, and she's passed, but that's how I first got in touch with it, because I used to go to temple with her all the time when I was really, really small. But what I found the Buddhist stuff afterwards, like after I've done the self-growth, I went back, it's like, holy, that this aligns a lot with the work I've done with myself without knowing that this is Buddhist stuff, right?
Yes.
So how do you integrate that? Is all of life is about perspective. That's the first thing.
Perspective.
So yeah, so you thinking that, you know, who you are is not the right fit, or there's something wrong with you, or your business is not growing, or you can't really do what you want. This is all a perspective. And the truth is that you need to realize that when people think of making a change, they always think about the worst option, like the worst outcome. Say that, okay, today I'm gonna start my own business. The worst thought is that it's gonna fail and I'm gonna lose a lot of money, right? But then there's also the best outcome. I'm gonna make a lot of money. I'm gonna have complete time freedom, and I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be able to focus on my family, time freedom, etc. Right? So there's two outcomes: the best outcome, the worst outcome. And people's mind is geared towards the worst outcome all the time. And the illusion is that people think that the worst outcome is the realistic thought.
Yes.
Right? But there is no realistic thought, because none of those two things exist. Those two things are just thoughts, and you can choose which one you want. And when people say 90% of businesses fail, is because they're always thinking about the worst outcome. And if the business owner is always thinking about the worst outcome and they're living in fear, they're gonna fail. Right? So this is what in Buddhism is always about perspective. All of life is perspective. Whatever you feel like is tangible, those are just illusions, right? This whole life is illusion. You're only here to be one step closer to enlightenment, right? And sometimes people see it as a negative thing, but I think it's a beautiful thing, because we all come here, we have a purpose. Most people are not living that, right? But the whole point here is not to have a big house and have like 3 Lamborghinis, is to work on yourself to get to the next level of the higher self. And to do that is to help a lot of people in your own way, right? And this is the next step in humanity. Like we've evolved a lot in terms of technology, in terms of living conditions, etc. But what we haven't truly evolved is really understanding our own mind. I mean, humans will go out and like research Mars and try to figure out what's like, trying to move there and things like that, without even understanding what the hell's going on in here and how this even works. we're wired towards negative thinking because that's a survival instinct. It helped us in the beginning of evolution, but at this stage in our species survival, it's no longer a good thing
Serving.
because now we need to do more than survive. Now we want to go to the next level and do the impossible, right? We've done a lot of impossible, but now we really want to do the impossible. And to do that is to raise our level of consciousness.
So raise our level of consciousness, focus more on the best outcome, like believing in the best and helping people, finding the right people, so as you can like transcend yourself and live out your purpose.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Because the best outcome, the worst outcome, they're both choices. What option will you take? Right. And when you believe in the best outcome, say that I have to outreach to like 10 clients today, right?
Yeah.
If I think of the worst outcome, they all say no and they tell me to go to hell, right?
Yes.
That's the worst outcome. Maybe they'll say something even worse. Maybe they'll be racist to me. I don't know. But that's the worst outcome, right? You can, if you believe that in your head, do you want to do the outreach? What do you think? If I believe the worst outcome, would I want to do the work?
Because you'll be scared. You'd be scared.
Of course not. That's right. Yeah. And then you are making that come real because guess what? If you believe in the worst outcome and you don't want to do it, you're doing something you don't want to do, what's the reaction back from people? It's going to be
negative.
No, right?
Yes.
Negative. And then you're going to think all these negative thoughts about yourself, like I'm not good at this, I'm no good at sales, I'm not good at business, I am not this kind of person. I am, and then people talk about the whole thing where like I am who I am, and like I can't really change who I am, that fixed mindset, and then all of that starts playing. But if I think about the best outcome and I feel like, okay, well, it doesn't matter who says no because the perfect client is waiting for me right now. That is the best outcome thinking. Then you will do whatever it takes to improve your skills, to make tweaks to get the perfect client. Your inner drive changes. And then when your inner drive changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, your outcome changes. So it all starts from here.
Yes. And where do you find this energy? Because you mentioned it, you've been through depression and hard time. I've been through depression as well. And I know that when you are in those depressive moods or feelings, it's hard to find the strength to actually start something. So where would you say we can find the inner start, this trigger that would like push us toward this goal and help us keep going because it's hard. I mean, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's possible. You're the proof that it's possible. I hope I can be the proof that it's possible as well. It's possible, but how do we do not to give up when it gets hard? Like, how do we keep going?
Okay, so the first thing for me was to see what's possible. Because until you see it, somehow, either you can dream it up or something, but the easiest thing, rather than waiting for a dream to come to you at night, is to seek people who are sort of doing what you want to be doing. So for a lot of, like, because everybody, the reason why I believe that business is completely unsaturated is because your clients are waiting to be helped by you, right? Mm-hmm. So you could be doing the same thing as I am, but there are certain people who want help from you because they feel like they can relate and that you can help them more because you understand their situation better, right? And so the first thing to get out of that is to see what's possible. And that's why I agree to do interviews like this. I interview a lot of people so people can see what's possible. Because what happens, there's a discrepancy of seeing someone already successful, right? So let's take Oprah Winfrey, for example. Yes. She's very, very, very successful. She defies all stereotypes of what an African American woman should be, what's possible for a woman her age from the year that she was born and how horrible things were for someone like her. you know, her background. Like she defies all stereotypes. And then people, when they see that, they think that she is someone special. She is like touched by God or something at birth, and that she was meant to live this life like that, and that, you know, I am different, right? Like she's an extraordinary person from the beginning, and I am different, so I could never make that kind of leap. And that's a problematic thinking. The only reason why she got to where she is because she aligned herself and she gave 100%, and she did a very good job at not giving a fuck about anyone else. And that's how she got there, right? But when you start to see that other people are like better than you already and more superior, and that's what they can do, because a lot of people may be looking at you, Adriana, thinking, you know, well, she, you know, she was an engineer before, she's so driven, that's the only reason she can have a business. Like they can think that. And me, I'm not, because, you know, maybe I spent my whole life, you know, jumping from a low menial job, one thing to another, and Adriana's born differently. That's a problematic thought. So that's why people have to see what's possible and see people who are like 1 or 2 steps ahead. Because otherwise, if they see someone's 10 years work or 20 years work or 25 years work, it's easy for people to say, well, I'm different and this person's extraordinary. But actually, that's an excuse for them to not do any work, to have that thought.
That's true. See what's possible. Have more example of different people, atypical, ambitious people. Thank you so much. That's very inspiring listening to you. I just love listening to you, to be honest. So you already told us your definition of honesty. You said it's being authentic, knowing who you are and what you want in life, right?
Yeah.
So what is the definition of peace for you and for the people, the parent that you help? What is the definition of peace? What is the state where they get after working with you that make them feel more at peace with themselves and their surroundings?
The definition of peace, you know, it's funny because we're all born, and then like family, society, you know, all these cultural expectations make you not peaceful. So being peaceful has to do with being aligned with yourself, and that is healing a lot of emotional wounds. Be aware of, really want to do in this lifetime. And the work doesn't have to be paid work necessarily, but 90% of the time it would be likely, because you're creating a lot of value and people pay for value. People pay for a solution to resolve a serious pain in their life. When your business, your career is about helping and serving a lot of people, then you start to feel aligned. That's peaceful. Feeling aligned with yourself. Yeah. And then looking at your family, like your children, right? And for me, you know, I help parents, and the main problem is that they start to neglect their family, what matters to them the most, because of all this other crap in their life. Because what children do is that they teach you lessons. When they come, they're like the perfectly packaged miracle lessons for the parent specifically. So those kids trigger a lot of things in people, especially like even if you love them a lot, they'll bring out a lot of issues, and then parents, they run from that, right? So being at peace is also facing that, facing what triggers you every day at home or at work, because that's where the answers are. When things trigger you, it's something that you need to resolve within yourself, and that's where the lesson is. So continuously when you do that, you will find yourself at peace, because you're unknotting a lot of the things that need to be resolved within. And noting the things, facing what triggers you, and continuously do the job of this. Yes. You keep doing that, you have a marvelous life. I promise. It is a guarantee from me. How many languages can you speak? I speak 3. What are they? I speak, of course, English, and Korean is my native tongue, and Spanish is my first language. So no, sorry, Spanish is my second language. So
Yeah.
English is my third.
Yeah. So you had a
And
mother
French
tongue
is
who
very
was
bad.
French. You speak French as well.
No, well, we have to learn because we're in Canada. But my French is like basic high school level French. Is like I could barely make a conversation. I once did a exchange in Quebec to learn French when I was 19 years old, but that became more of a party time. We barely learned French. So my French is, I would like to learn more French, but it's not very good. So I would say 3 languages.
So you speak 3.5. I'm sure your French is okay. When you
No,
already speak
no.
3 languages, it's easy to learn new languages.
It is.
And French is really close to Spanish.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. I have to apply myself.
Wow.
The best way to learn is to move to that country or to get like a boyfriend or a girlfriend that speaks the language. I always tell people that, and then watch movies. That's the best way to learn.
Yes, definitely, definitely. That's so yes, before we wrap up, please tell us the last advice that you want to give to us, the last honesty you want to share to us, and also how can we contact you if we want to know more about you or if we want to work with you? How do we do that?
Okay, so if you want to reach me, just add me on Facebook, send me a message. That works. If you want to email me, it's julia@juliacha.com. You can email me there. And last advice is, in terms of honesty, is do what you love because it's easier than you think.
Do what you love. It's easier than you think. Definitely try it. Don't live your life without following your purpose, right?
Yeah, because what happens with people is that they have regrets later, right? So that's what midlife crisis is. It's like I lived 50 years of my life serving things I didn't want to be doing. And now I don't even know who I am, because the whole purpose of us is to learn who we are and what we're meant to do in this lifetime. And if you don't do that work, right? I mean, you feel good when you do that work. It's scary in the beginning, though. It'll be very painful to face that. A lot of people, like, they go towards it and then they decide like they're not good enough or it's too hard or whatever, and then they give up, right? But that becomes the greatest regret in life. And relationships, living life on your terms, because you can. It doesn't matter where you are right now. You can be powerful. And power is not the same as force. Like, being forceful will only give you pain. But when you become powerful, where you are standing right now, it doesn't matter what kind of work you're doing. It doesn't matter where you are in life, whether you have a lot of debt. It doesn't really matter who you are, what your condition is, what your form is. When you become powerful within yourself, your whole world changes around you. That would be my last thing for everyone.
Thank you so much, Julia. So this interview will be featured on the Honesty page next week. And there will be a link to your page and everything, so as it's easy for people to reach out to you. Thank you so much for your honesty. I think that was very, very inspiring. And yeah, I loved how you said that being powerful is different as being forceful. And do what you love, it's easier than you think.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adriana. Thank you for having me here.
That was a pleasure. Thank you, Julia. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.